Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting for the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder for tonight, November 18, 2024. I open the meeting at 7 p.m. On behalf of the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and the land in which we meet tonight and paying my respects to elders past and present. May I please ask you to stand and remove your hats if you do have a hat on this evening for tonight's prayer, to be conducted by Father Conrad from the Catholic Church. Over to you, Father.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, this elected council meets here this evening to discuss, discern, and make decisions that impact the people of Kalgoorlie-Boulder. In inviting me, Lord, your unworthy servant, I seek your blessing and are open to your guidance. Hear their petitions, Lord, and this humble prayer. Bless and inspire our Mayor Wilson, Deputy Mayor Della, and Councillors Bodica, Winner, Johnson, O'Donnell, Brownlee, Turner and Viskovich. Grant them the wisdom to recognise what is right, the courage to make just and fair decisions, and the compassion to serve all residents, especially those who are most vulnerable. Guide the deliberations with clarity and a spirit of cooperation, so that the decisions made tonight will promote the common good and ensure the well-being of everyone in this community. We make this prayer through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, God, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, Father. Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you, Father. Thank you. You're welcome to stay. You can leave if you like. Otherwise, you'll be called on as a deputy mayor. I'll now read the disclaimer for those who are present this evening. And please note that this meeting is being recorded and streamed live on the Council's website in accordance with the City's public participation in Council meeting policy, which can be viewed on Council's website. All reasonable care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the public gallery, it is assumed your consent is given if your image is broadcast. The recommendations contained in this agenda are officers' recommendations only and should not be acted upon until Council has resolved to adopt those recommendations. The resolutions of Council should be confirmed by perusing the minutes of the Council meeting at which these recommendations were considered. Members of the public should also note that they act at their own risk if they enact any resolution prior to receiving official written notification of Council's decision. Our record of attendance this evening, we have Councillor Bodica who's with us. Councillor Bodica, our condolences on the recent passing of your brother. Councillor Winner, good evening to you. Councillor Johnson, minus the beard, welcome back. Councillor Brownlee, good evening. Councillor Turner, good evening to you. Councillor Viskovich, a very lovely good evening to you. We also have Councillor O'Donnell who is with us on the phone. We'll get to a procedural motion on that in just a couple of moments. Our CEO is with us tonight, Andrew Bryan. Our Director of Community Development, Mia Hicks. Good evening, Mia. New role too, Director of Advocacy and Strategy. Our Director of Engineering, Louis Camporelli. And in her first meeting tonight, our Director of Corporate and Commercial, Cassandra Yeager. Cassandra, good evening. Cass, great to have you on board with the City. Our Manager of Development and Growth, Paul Lees, is with us tonight. Paul, good evening. And also with us this evening, our Executive Manager of Governance and Risk Services, Francis Liston, our Governance Officer, Jamie Boys, and our ICT Risk and Compliance Officer, Matthew Pearson, who are to my right. And Marketing and Comms Team Lead is Pia Timu, who's with us this evening. We have 24 visitors in the gallery at this point, alongside 3 media present. Can I have a procedural motion to approve Councillor Kyron O'Donnell to attend this evening's meeting via telephone? Just confirming, Councillor O'Donnell, you are there?
Yeah, greetings, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. A mover for that, Councillor Bodica. Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Viskovich. Any discussion? No discussion, no dissents. Carried 7-0. Councillor O'Donnell, you are with us now. Thank you and good evening.
Good evening, thank you.
We have no apologies from elected members. We have no apologies, Mr CEO, from staff. No. We do have leave of absence, though, recorded for Deputy Mayor Della to my right, who's not with us this evening, and Councillor Bodica, who did have a leave of absence, is with us tonight. Mr CEO, was there any response to previous public questions taken on notice? No, thank you. That leads us into public access and public question time tonight. We have only one public question time submission. Ms Carissa Zappelli. Ms Zappelli, if you'd like to come forward, please. And Anthony Ball, yes, as noted on your sheet, apologies. You have 3 questions. First of all, sorry, Mr. Ball, can I just get you to raise that microphone and turn it on, just for the record? And for those who are tuned in online, your name and address, please.
G'day, I'm Anthony Ball. I'm of Ardagh in Kalgoorlie. I was just asking permission, first of all, that I can read out a bit of a prepared thing so I can put my questions in context. It's not very long.
Short preamble is permitted. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And thank you for coming down on Monday for the Memorial Day. Today we are here again, standing at yet another crossroad, but this time we are armed with something irrefutable, scientific evidence. A letter signed by Russell Broadbent MP has been sent to the Prime Minister and all other ministers that lays out a disturbing and undeniable truth. The COVID-19 vaccine, specifically those produced by Pfizer and Moderna, contain significant levels of synthetic DNA. Contamination up to 145 times the safety limit set by our own Therapeutic Goods Administration, the TGA. This isn't just a case of regulatory oversight, it is a potential disaster of unprecedented scale, with long-term consequences that we are only beginning to understand. We are talking about DNA that has the potential to integrate into the human genome, leading to severe health complications such as cancers, immune disorders, and possibly even genetic alterations passed on future generations. The idea of risks is not just theory, it is backed by experts in fields of virology, genomics, and biosecurity. These are the same kinds of risks that in the past we've seen lead to tragedies like the thalidomide disaster, which left over 10,000 victims in its wake. But this is worse. This time we're talking about not taking tens of thousands of people, we're talking about 20 million Australians, men, women and children who have been exposed to more than 63 million doses of these contaminated vaccines. What we face today is not just a local issue, it is a national crisis and we cannot afford to sit idly by while lives are potentially at risk. As a town, as a community, we have a responsibility and moral obligation to inform our residents of the dangers and to take a stand where others may be too afraid to do so. Kalgoorlie-Boulder is already recognised as one of the economic powerhouses of Australia. Tonight we have a chance to also become a beacon of health, safety and moral courage for the entire nation. We have the evidence in our hands, detailed reports from leading experts, and we are asking for the immediate decisive action. This council must move forward with a motion to send this evidence to every council in Australia and from there to every level of government and health authority. We must demand immediate suspension of these vaccines until full and transparent investigation can be conducted. Our government cannot and must not ignore this any longer. To the councillors that sit here before me, I say this: you have the power to make a difference tonight. You have the power to protect people who put their trust in you. The truth is now clear. The inaction will be unforgivable. Do not let this opportunity slip through your hands again. We have been given another chance to do what is right, to stand on the side of truth and the well-being of our community. Let history show that when faced with this choice, we chose to act firmly, decisively and in the best interests of our people, the residents of Kalgoorlie-Boulder and around the areas, and indeed all Australians who are watching us. Let us not blow this chance. Thank you. So I would like to enrol you guys. We were here last month, we've seen what happened, and we acknowledge that at a local government level, there's something that might not be done. But we want to put that into, I want to hand around if that's okay. We were told by the TGA that there was, we were told by the government to start out with there was no gene or DNA in our vaccines. and then the TGA, when asked for evidence, produced a test, and for clear and clarity, they have provided a document that I would like to give to you so that you can read along with us. But this is their clear, open,
Thanks, Mr. Belly. If you just leave it there, please. And we'll organise that ourselves. Thank you. No, can you leave them there, please? Thank you. You'll need 7 copies.
This is a clear and transparent copy.
Mr. Ball, I just
of the
raised your attention that you do have a short preamble. I've probably given you a lot longer than what was probably necessary. Can I please get you to get to your questions?
Okay then, well, so they told us about no DNA contamination, and then they turned around and they said, oh, well, we've performed a test on this DNA, but if you have a look at page 5 of this, the purpose of the procedure is, is to detect and quantify residual plasmid DNA in an mRNA drug substance or mRNA product immediate using a real-time quantity of PCR or qPCR assay designed to amplify the kanamycin resistance gene in the plasmoid. To put that in layman's terms, if you were going to go get a cancer test, you would expect to get a whole complete test of your body to get a cancer test. What they're doing here is they're testing one bit out of thousands to see if there's any DNA fragments.
Mr. Ball, I'll hold you up there.
And like
Can you
I said,
please give us
all
your
the
questions?
information that was supposed to be transparent, they've redacted all the answers that they were... That's the TGA.
Thank you.
Okay,
You have
so
3
the second
questions.
piece... So the first question is, are you aware of the DNA contamination in the Moderna vaccines? So I just wanted to establish that we can see that there is DNA in the vaccines, even of a synthetic nature.
Noting that you've just provided many of the councillors with that particular report there and we haven't read it yet, I'd say that the answer to your question is no at this point in time. Next question.
Okay, so Moderna themselves have stated what a quantitative PCR test is, and it's not testing for one thing. It's often applied to a measure of the residual DNA, but only detects the DNA molecules that contain both PCR primers, does not measure all other smaller DNA molecules that are particularly digested. And through independent stuff, which we've already supplied you with the information at last month's meeting, you'll see that there was, the testing is up to 145 times more than TGA's own maximum limit. So,
What's your question,
so
please?
well, the question would have been, have you read the TGA report that we did supply? So that's why I wanted to read it through with you.
No worries. I'm sure the councillors will take that reading on board. Thank you. And
Like
your
I
final
said,
question?
now I understand things got a bit misconstrued last time, and the last thing we want to get across is we're not coming from a hostile department. I've been caring for this community for a long time. I joined the Air Force with the idea of defending our country, no matter what your position was or your ideas. I've been in the health and fitness for this town and even ran things to help people become better versions of themselves. So all we're strongly suggesting is next week there's a thing called the Great Debate next Friday. This will give clear information on all the things that I'm talking about. I'm not a scientist, but I've been involved in health for over 20 years. We're strongly wanting someone or anyone that wants to go, but at least someone from our council to attend this next Friday and listen to the professors, the experts, the leading Australian government people. So that's our question, is we would like somebody to attend.
Sure. Personally, I won't be available for that next Friday. However, with those details, we'll open it up to any of those councillors who are available. They may wish to consider heading along.
I really, really appreciate that, and thank you for giving me extra time. Many of you know I went through brain surgery, so stating things through is a bit fun, but I really appreciate it. Thank you on our behalf. Chris has got something to finish.
Sorry, that was the 3 questions. That's it.
Well done.
Can I please make this passion to you? I know that it's a passionate and emotional topic for many of you who are in the public gallery tonight. The behaviour and the standards that are being applied to our elected members and to myself are not appreciated.
Yep.
Your manner tonight is much appreciated. You've been very cordial and very courteous. So can I thank you for that approach, and hopefully that continues.
I thank you, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you. Now, for those who wish to stay this evening, you're welcome to stay. However, we will move on in our council agenda tonight.
Sorry, Mike.
Thank you, people.
And just to note, our public gallery has been reduced significantly. I'll continue to move through our run sheet. Councillors, thank you for your patience on that. As you appreciate, there has been a lot of correspondence today, and let's hope that the next lot of correspondence is much more cordial. No public questions. That's a public question time taken care of tonight. We do have a deputation this evening. Can I thank Ben Doyle and Murray Lay for their patience to get to that this evening, and that is in relation to 1525 and 1527. Gents, you're welcome to come to the microphone to deliver that. You've got 15 minutes to address council. There is an opportunity for councillors to ask you questions at the end. However, there's probably not the opportunity for you to ask questions to us.
No worries. Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, elected members, for the opportunity to speak tonight. As Mr Mayor highlighted, we're here tonight to speak on items 15.2.5, the Hopkins Street Workforce Accommodation Facility tenure extension on page 83 of your agenda, and item 15.2.7, the Vivian Street Workforce Accommodation Facility tenure extension on page 98 of your agenda. I just wanted to provide some further information relating to the facility and answer to some questions that were raised in the briefing session on Monday, the 11th of November. Firstly, and for clarity, Stage 2 Hopkins Street Facility's construction completion. During the briefing session, it was noted on numerous occasions that it was still under construction. And in actual fact, that facility has been completed and was commenced occupation in August of this year. However, it didn't require an occupancy permit because it is only an accommodation facility. We're currently in the situation whereby both Vivian Street and Hopkins Street have been 100% occupied since August of this year on a 100% occupancy basis. Secondly, and more importantly, the question was raised by a few elected members around why are we asking for a potential extension to tenure now, given that the facility has only been in operation Stage 1 February this year, Stage 2 August this year. And the key driver for that is really broken down into a couple of parts, and I'll try my best to sum them up as quickly as practically possible. For those of you that don't know, this facility is owned jointly between 3 parties, my party being MLG, the second party being Top Drill with Tim Topham, and a third entity called RangeCon. And we all operate large contracting businesses in Kalgoorlie. Prior to the inception of this facility, we had a large amount of our staff housed across residential houses, so operating houses as fly-in, fly-out facilities. Since the commencement of this facility, we have been able to transition those fly-in, fly-out staff out of those houses into the facility and hand those houses back to our staff that have wanted to move to town permanently. So in the last 2 months alone, we've had 26 families move to town and take up those houses that we've currently been renting between the group. And we're working our way as our leases change to fill those houses up with families wanting to move to town. So why are we looking to extend or requesting the extension of tenure? It's really been driven by the fact that as we know, we've got the likes of Northern Star Resources, Evolution Mining and Norton are going through major expansions. As part of that, the three of our businesses are materially exposed to that in the fact that we provide those particular companies a large amount of services. And we're currently being asked to tender works now that go well beyond the current 4-year period. As a group, we're all looking to do the best that we can in the eyes of the community in both balancing up residential and fly-in, fly-out workforce. However, we're being challenged as part of these tendering opportunities to ensure that we can provide accommodation to our staff post, effectively, the current expiry date of the current tenure that's in place. So where does that leave us? As organisations, we are being presented with business opportunity. We've transitioned the ownership, we've transitioned our fly-in, fly-out staff to houses, and we've actually started to create a fundamental shift in the ability of people to rent houses in town through the fact that we're able to house our fly-in, fly-out staff. But our customers are asking us for more of our underlying services, and they're asking for that for a long period of time. And they're saying to us, you must be able to quantify that you can guarantee your staff being housed for that contract duration. And we're talking sort of 7, 8, and 9 year periods now. The situation we find ourselves in is effectively, and it is a very pressing one, where because of the fact that we have a 10-year extension that runs out in 48 months' time, we're unable to commit post that, or if we do commit post that, we are very concerned that we'll find ourselves in the situation of having to deploy a rapid amount of people back into the residential market and artificially driving up the rent price come 4 years' time should we commit to this work. And that's a very challenging situation given the work that's gone in by the three parties to transition as many of those houses back as possible. So really, to answer the question, why are we looking for that tenure extension? It's to ensure that we don't find ourselves in the situation in 48 months' time that we're transitioning back to what we've just walked away from, and that's having a heap of fly-in, fly-out people in houses again, and we have a real material concern in regard to that. I think the other thing that needs to be brought into context, and whilst understand this probably isn't an item for council, but has been somewhat affected by the period of time associated with this. When we first brought this project to council for approval, it was prior to the workforce accommodation facility, workforce accommodation policy being implemented, and we bought a proposal that was very much built around a long-term facility, and that meant the amenity of the facility came at a high degree of cost. So we spent a large amount of money in things such as stormwater management, landscaping, general amenity of the facility and the area that was really designed as a far longer term facility, and if it was coming back before the council now, we would be able to, and based on a 5-year approval, we would be able to not have to spend that money. Effectively, we spent sort of circa $5.5 million more than what was actually required under the current policy. The challenge for us is we were caught in a period of time where the policy didn't exist. We transitioned into a state arbitration tribunal approval, and during that period of time, obviously the city adopted a workforce accommodation policy, and we found ourselves with a capital commitment to build a long-term facility, but only an approval for a 5-year tenure. So we're now sitting here today. We've transitioned our people out of houses and provided houses for the community, but we're now carrying a large capital cost that we're only able to service over a 48-month period, which is then meaning we're having to charge our customer base more to house our people. So at a high level, we're standing here, a huge amount of opportunity in front of us for our relative businesses, industry that's going through a major expansion. We think we've contributed to freeing up some houses but that is coming at a high cost to our customers, given the development standard that we put into this facility. And we're really materially concerned that with only 48 months to run, the capacity for both the state government and industry to build enough houses to house those people, we're going to find ourselves having to take more than 400 people and jam them back into houses in a very short period of time, which isn't great for our businesses, it's not great for the community, and is going to leave us transitioning back into a situation that we're only just starting to come out of now. Thank you very much. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lay. Councillors, any questions for Mr. Lay? Councillor Turner.
We just sit down or stand
You
up?
can still stay. You can stay
sit
seated
up.
for the
Okay.
deputations.
I just through the Mayor to Mr. Lay, just with these projects that you've spoke about that potentially your companies could possibly be involved in, and the companies that use that accommodation, do you believe that with the uncertainty of that workforce accommodation having an extension, that some of those could be at risk, and that could put some of the economic development in the community of Kalgoorlie-Boulder at risk?
Most definitely. The challenge that we've all had for a large period of time, Councillor Turner, is the ability to be able to house people. I know from my own business, we have about 640 local staff, of which nearly 200 of those are fly in, fly out, but more than 400 are residential. We're fighting every day to find a bed to put those people in, and I can tell you, even with this facility being built, we are still struggling on a day-to-day basis to house not only our staff, but we're fielding inbound inquiry from people saying, can you put our people into your facility as well? So, yes, it will place those at risk in my view.
Thank you. Follow-up question, Councillor Turner?
So just a follow-up question through the Mayor to Mr. Lay as well. You mentioned that you had 26 houses had been made available for families to relocate to Kalgoorlie-Boulder, and I believe from previous deputisations that you've made to council, both when I've been a councillor and before that I've watched, that you previously had a program where you encouraged people to come and live in their families in Kalgoorlie-Boulder. When this accommodation that you've now constructed wasn't available, did that put that program at risk, and were you able to move families here then?
Yes, Councillor Turner. So we operated a program where someone was flying in and out for a period of time. We would effectively supply them with a house. So they'd fly in and out until they had a desire to want to move the family to town. We would financially incentivise them in terms of our residential staff are paid a higher rate of pay than our fly-in, fly-out staff. And then we would incentivise them by providing a house for them to move into, and then paying for them to move, and then on top of that a salary sacrifice component for all of their utilities. We had to end that program circa 2.5, nearly 3 years ago now, because we were transitioning all of those houses purely to fly-in, fly-out people. We've been able to reenact that program in the last 3 months.
Councillors, any other questions of Mr. Lay? No? Thank you, Mr. Lay.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And Mr. Doyle, you have around 4 minutes to complete your deputation.
I'll talk fast. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Ben Doyle from Planning Solutions. We're the applicant in this project. Now, in determining a planning application, there are essentially two questions you ask yourselves as councillors. Firstly, can it be approved? And then secondly, should it be approved? The first one goes to the planning framework, and I'll talk to that. The second question goes to the merits of the proposal, and I trust Murray's now outlined that for you. Now, with this one, helpfully, the question about can it be approved has been somewhat answered in that it already exists. The development's there, it is operating. You also have local planning scheme number 2 now, which defines the use, sets permissibility, confirms that this is an acceptable use in this location. Now, what we're seeking now is to extend the time frame from 5 years out to 10 years. And I think if I just quickly walk through the chronology of the framework and as it relates to this project, then I think it'll become self-evident. So as Murray said, at the time of the original application, there was no workforce accommodation policy. And so the development was designed with an expectation that it would be there for quite some time, if not in perpetuity. So it was designed to a high specification. However, by the time that first stage was approved, Council had initiated but not adopted its workforce accommodation policy. And that policy said that time should be limited to 5 years for the approval. And so council, when it approved the development, imposed a 5-year time limit on it, consistent with council's policy. Understandable. Stage 2 was then approved in October 2023. Now, at that time, the endorsed policy only contemplated 5 years plus potential 5 years. But at the time of this determination, you were also advertising a policy that contemplated 10 years of approval. But that hadn't been adopted. So understandably, again, council imposed a 5-year time limitation, contemplating possibly an extension. So again, a decision entirely consistent with council policy. Now we've got stage 3 was approved, and then in December last year, council amended the workforce accommodation policy to grant approvals for up to 10 years. And so again, what we're seeking is for a decision consistent with council policy. Now the trade-off as part of your policy for that additional period was a higher standard of development, right? You want it around for longer, it's got to be better quality. As Murray's outlined, he spent some $5.5 million designing and constructing this development to a higher standard than a standard workforce accommodation, right? And so we think that we've met the objectives. How am I going for time, Mayor?
You have 2 minutes.
Perfect, thank you. So you've got officer reports there that have assessed this proposal and this workforce village against the criteria set out in the workforce accommodation policy. And the officer report spells out that in terms of wall heights and streetscape and landscaping, we achieve those criteria. Now we will, however, concede that the roof pitches and the roof pitches are less than would be required under the policy. But obviously the policy and those criteria didn't exist when we did our initial design. So going back to the objectives, higher standard of development, higher specifications, the officer report confirms that we achieved that, the landscaping, the streetscape, the legacy infrastructure. So what we're asking, if I can conclude, is that council does as it has done in the previous 2 occasions with this development, and that is approve the application consistent with your policy that council has adopted. In this case, we're seeking 10 years in line with the policy that was endorsed by council less than a year ago. And through the process, we've worked very closely with Paul and the other officers in the planning section. You've got a thorough and diligent assessment in front of you. You've got a comprehensive report. You've got everything we trust that you require to make an informed decision. That being the case, I would ask you that you approve it as recommended by the officers. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Doyle. Any questions, councillors, of Mr Doyle? Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This may be for Mr Lay. Am I too late to ask a question to Mr Lay?
Well, you may have missed the opportunity. I'll allow it.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
They are part of the same delegation, so that's fine.
Perfect, thank you. So just through to Mr Lay, thank you for the information. One question that does come to mind is what percentage of those FIFO workers do actually transition families moving to Kalgoorlie?
Thanks for the question, Councillor Viskovich. I think prior to the cancelling of our program, when we transitioned, we had, I think it was 47 families over a 2.5-year period that we transitioned into Kalgoorlie. Since the rollback, so the re-establishment of that program, we've had 14 families and then a series of couples, so not wider families, so couples out to a total of 25, I think, as of 2 days ago.
Thank you. Councillors, any further questions? Any final questions? Thank you, Mr Lay. Thank you, Mr Doyle, for your deputation this evening.
Thank you.
Councillors, item 8, notations of interest. I have 2 notations of interest tonight. Councillor Winner, can I just confirm your notation of interest? I had it originally as a financial, however, an impartiality. Thank you. So I do have one for an impartiality for Councillor Winner on item 14.11, also 14.15, which is Walk of Fame 2025, due to a related party being a nominee, and a financial interest from myself this evening on 15.22, the amendment to approve childcare premises due to having a child in a centre owned by the applicant. Councillors, any other further interests for tonight? Thank you. Applications for leave of absence. I have one from the 10th of the 1st to the 27th of the 1st for Councillor Nadia Turner, off on a holiday and also for work travel, alongside the 9th of the 12th to the 13th of the 12th, 2024 for work travel. Just stating that was the 10th of the 1st, 2025 to the 27th of the 1st, 2025. Any other leave of absence, councillors? No. Can I have a mover to accept? Councillor Turner. Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. Seconded, Councillor Brownlee. That was Councillor Viskovich moving that particular motion. Any further discussion, councillors, accepting that? No dissent? Carried 8-0. Item 9.2, procedural motion to suspend section 9.1 of the standing orders at local law. Councillors, do you wish to sit this evening? Can I have a mover for that, please? Councillor Turner, thank you. Councillor Viskovich is the seconder. Any dissent, councillors? No dissent. I'll put it to the vote. Councillor Bodica has left just before the vote at 7:40 p.m. So no dissent, councillors. I'll take that as passed 7-0. Your clock's wrong. Righto, sorry. 7:36. I'll check my own from here on forward, Mr. CEO. Might get you a watch for Christmas. Announcements by the person presiding. Without discussion, councillors, you were sent the mayoral announcements last week. Some highlights in there include meeting with the Honourable Rhys Whitby, MLA, on the 1st of November. Good to see some progress on opportunities within power. I still don't think we're solved, but we've moved forward. We've also had Councillor Turner, who represented us at the Kalgoorlie Remembrance Day service, and Councillor Winner, who was with myself at the Boulder Remembrance Day service. What's down the track last week? A summer operational update meeting, vital, with our member for Kalgoorlie, MLA Ali Kent, alongside police. A report from Department of Communities in the summer response. Attended the Sports Star of the Year Awards on Saturday night. And can I thank our staff from that particular dealing with the Sports Star of the Year committee? There was an enormous amount of praise to the city staff in relation to the 2024 event. So thank you very much, staff. I just want to pass that on. No questions on that, councillors? Didn't have the Wiggles concert in there, that's okay. Item 11, confirmation of minutes. That the minutes of the ordinary council meeting on the 28th of October be confirmed as a true record of that. Councillors, may I have a mover for that motion? Moved Councillor Viskovich, seconded Councillor Turner. Any discussion on the previous minutes? Councillor Johnson, question?
Yeah, just a quick one. Are we talking the ordinary council meeting on the 30th of October?
No, we're talking the ordinary council meeting on the 28th of October. I believe it was maybe written as the 30th of October. It is the 28th of October.
Yep.
So the motion will be that the council meeting minutes held on the 28th of October. Just to clarify.
As the 30th.
Yes, we'll adjust that so it is the correct date, if the mover agrees. Yep, thank you. And seconder, thank you. Any dissent on the minutes? No? Passed 7-0. Motions to which previous notice has been given, Mr. CEO, there are nil. No urgent business to consider this evening at item 13. Item 14, we will move the en bloc, councillors, noting that the en bloc for item 14 will be 14.1.2, the governance framework review. 14.1.3 will be part of the en bloc. 14.1.6 and 14.1.7. 14.1.6 being the BEAM e-scooter update and 14.1.7 being the quarterly commercial business reports. Councillors, do you wish to pull any of those before we put them into the en bloc? No, that will be the en bloc. 14.1.2, 14.1.3, 14.1.6, 14.1.7. A mover of the en bloc from the committee reports, please. Moved Councillor Winner, seconded Councillor Johnson. Any discussion? No discussion, can't be any discussion on the en bloc, thank you. No dissent, councillors. Carried 7-0 on those en bloc, which leaves item 14.1.1, which Councillor Winner has declared an impartial interest on. Councillors, noting the confidentiality around the attachments, do I have a mover for 14.1.1? Councillor Turner moving 14.1.1. A seconder for 14.1.1. Thank you, Councillor Brownlee. Almost starting to sound like an auctioneer. Any discussion, Councillor Turner? Go ahead.
Just very briefly through the Mayor, just would like to thank our officers for the hard work they did on this. We had a little bit of a change of structure this year, and I think that we have got to a very good outcome to move forward with our Walk of Fame.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Councillor Brownlee, any discussion? No, thank you. Councillors, any further discussion? No. Any dissent to 14.1.1? No. Carried 7-0. Noting Councillor Boddicker still out of the chamber. 14.1.4 is the corporate performance reporting, and this requires an absolute majority of council to make a decision on this one. A mover of 14.1.4, councillors. Move Councillor Viskovich. Seconder. Councillor Winner. Move Councillor Viskovich. Seconded Councillor Winner. Noting that Councillor Boddicker is returned at 7:41, making the vote out of 8. Any discussion, Councillor Viskovich? No. No discussion, Councillor Winner. Any discussion, councillors, on 14.1.4? No. Carried 8-0. 14.1.5, mayoral vehicle policy. Councillors, do I have a mover of 14.1.5? Move Councillor Viskovich, seconded Councillor Boddicker. Councillor Viskovich, you wish to speak? Councillor Boddicker, you wish to speak? No. Any councillors wish to speak? No. Thank you. Any dissent, councillors? No. Carried 8-0. It moves us up to items 15, officer reports. The en bloc for the officer reports will be as follows unless advised by councillors. 15.1.1, the statement of financial activity for September 2024. 15.1.2, the accounts payable report. 15.1.4, the council calendar for 2025. 15.2.1, the excise of a portion of Reserve 9500 to facilitate telecommunications lease between the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage and Amplitel. Item 15.3.1, the media monitoring platform review. Councillors, anyone else wish to pull anything from that? No, there is your en bloc. 15.1.1, 15.1.2, 15.1.4, 15.2.1 and 15.3.1. Mover of that en bloc, please. Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. Seconded, Councillor Winner. No dissent, councillors. Carried 8-0. Just confirming for the opportunity, Councillor O'Donnell, you're still with us?
Roger.
Thank you. Just had to confirm. Councillors, we move to 15.1.3, which requires an absolute majority as well this evening. That's the CEO delegations of authority. Councillors, we have an officer recommendation. Mover of the recommendation. Move Councillor Turner. Seconder. Councillor Viskovich. Councillor Turner, you wish to speak? Stand by. Yes, we skipped through a little bit there. Just confirming that was Councillor Viskovich that seconded. Yes, thank you. That's okay. No, this is 15.1.3 CEO delegations of authority. Okay, after all that, thank you. Any discussion, Councillor Viskovich? No. Councillors, any discussion on the CEO delegations of authority? Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr.
Or
Mayor.
do you wish to speak for or against?
Speak for.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will speak briefly on this item. I think it's important that it's noted that these delegations are in line with previous years that we were looking at, with minor adjustments being made in line with some of the newer policies we've brought into place. And I would encourage all councillors to support this, given it makes it very, very difficult to run a business like the city if we don't. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Winner. Speaker against? Speaker for? Speaker against? Speaker for? The mover has the right of reply. Councillors, no dissent for item 15.1.3? No. Carried 8-0. 15.1.5 is the Walk of Fame 2025 and pulled due to Councillor Winner with an impartiality on 15.1.5. Do we have a mover for the officer recommendation of 15.1.5? Move Councillor Boddicker. Seconder, Councillor Brownlee. Discussion, councillors? No? No discussion? Any dissent, councillors? No dissent? Carried 8-0. That leaves us to 1522, which I've declared a financial interest in. Mr. CEO, I'll leave the meeting for you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, as the Deputy Mayor's away, we need to appoint someone else to chair the meeting. Councillor Botica has suggested not tonight, so I'll next one around. Councillor Winner, are you happy to take on the chair? Thank you.
Just have to get rid of the mayor's baby seat. Alrighty, so the next item on the agenda is item 15.2.2, amendment to approve childcare premises, lot 13, 67 to 71 Dugan Street, Kalgoorlie. Do we have a mover? Councillor Viskovich and a seconder. Councillor Johnson. Councillor Viskovich, would you like to speak to this item? Councillor Johnson? Councillors, anyone like to speak for or against this item? No dissent. Item is carried. 7-0. Oh, no. That's out, so 6-0. Karen, 7-0. Thank you. With that, can we ask the Mayor to re-attend the meeting?
Item 1523, as I thank Councillor Winner for removing my booster seat. He also stole my pen by the looks of it, did he? Excellent. Good job, Councillor Winner. Thank you. Hey, very good. 1523, disposal of land, Area 1, Broadwood. We have an alternate motion from that. Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The alternative motion that I'm proposing tonight is that, one, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to effect local public notice in accordance with S3.583 of the Local Government Act 1995 for the sale of lots 95 to 106 Broadwood, known as Area 1, for a period of 2 weeks, having received a market-led proposal to purchase and develop the land. Number 2, request the Chief Executive Officer to ensure that the public notice advises that the land has registered Aboriginal heritage and consultation with appropriate valid native title claimants and cultural heritage knowledge holders is required to develop the land. And 3, note that this proposed disposal of land will be brought back to Council following the completion of the local public notice period and formal consideration of submissions received.
Thank you, Councillor Winner. Do I have a seconder for Councillor Winner's motion? Councillor Turner. Go ahead, Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This alternative motion is very important in that, as raised and discussed at previous council meetings, Aboriginal cultural heritage has been identified to exist at the site of this land. This alternative motion provides an opportunity to see that heritage preserved and stories shared with the community in a collaborative approach which would not be achieved on its own. Kalgoorlie-Boulder's cultural stories need and deserve to be shared and understood, and having seen some of the other developments by the proposed developer, which has captured and celebrated Aboriginal culture and heritage, I feel comfortable that something great could really be achieved if this is allowed to be explored. And this motion is looking at creating options to at least allow discussions with a hope for a resolution. As part of this motion, when the item is brought back to Council, I'll be seeking to include a requirement for the purchaser to enter into consultation with appropriate valid native title claimants and cultural heritage knowledge holders to address any Aboriginal cultural heritage on Area 1 prior to exercising the option to purchase, and will be seeking to ensure that the developer reports back to Council on the outcomes of this consultation and agreements reached for the protection and management of said Aboriginal cultural heritage items and areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Winner. Councillor Turner.
Yes, just through the mayor. Firstly, I'd like to thank Councillor Winner for the work he's done on bringing an alternate motion up for us to review. And then also I'd like to thank our staff for the work that they've done on this item. Now, this has come to council several times, and several times we've advertised it for sale, and when we've got to the last part of it, we've kind of hit hurdles and we've hit stepping stones. I believe that the motion allows for respectful negotiations and engagement of the relevant native title holders, which will be not determined by council, they're determined by the relevant bodies. It's important that we don't be scared of allowing this land to be developed, but at the same time, if we work with the right people, we can, I'm hoping, have a fantastic development out there that encompasses industrial, residential, and also some fantastic walking trails in the area that will celebrate some of our Indigenous history and culture in the area. And by doing this, we can do it in a respectful manner, and to have somebody come to the table that is actually not scared of working with our Indigenous groups, I think it's something that we definitely need to look at exploring, and I look forward to the advertising period and hopefully this coming back to council at a later time.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Speaker against? Speaker for? Speaker against? Speaker for? The mover has the right of reply. Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll keep this one brief as there was no other comments other than Councillor Turner from around the table. Look, this motion at its heart and simplest form will see this land only disposed of if agreement can be reached and consultation is taking place with appropriate parties. I think that's the most important part of this. We would all love to see opportunities for further developments while also celebrating and sharing our Aboriginal cultural heritage identification and sites within our community, and really making ways or creating ways that we can really see those items come to fruition. So I do hope that all councillors do support this. I'm very curious to see the information when it does come back to council after its advertising periods, and really seeing what work the developer and the valid native title claimants and cultural heritage knowledge holders come to, in hope that we can achieve something great for our city.
Thank you, Councillor Winner. Councillors, any dissent to 15.2.3? No dissent. Carried 8-0 on the amended motion by Councillor Winner. Item 15.2.4, workforce accommodation at lot 2699, number 10 Hewitt Street in South Kalgoorlie. Do we have a mover for this item? Councillor Viskovich moving. Seconder for this item? Councillor Johnson. Councillor Viskovich, wish to speak? Are you moving the office recommendation? Councillor Johnson, you wish to speak? No. Speaker for, speaker against? Speaker against? Councillor Turner?
Just through the mayor. Look, I would like to speak against this motion. I've given it a lot of consideration, bearing in mind that we've also already had a delegation here earlier tonight on workforce accommodation and people that are trying to get workforce accommodation out of residential areas. I can't support the motion. I want more residential houses in Kalgoorlie. I don't want less of them. And on that basis, bearing in mind that the proponent, if they want to house their own workers in their own home, they're more than welcome to let their workers stay in their home any night of the week, is my understanding. I could be incorrect, but I believe that you can let whoever you want stay in your own home. It's only if you have other people, perhaps that you want to, I don't know, for commercial reasons or whatever, but on that basis that I'm unsure why it's come to us, because they can already let people stay in their home if they want. So that's why I will not be supporting it, because I want more residential housing, not less, and I don't want residential houses made into commercial properties.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. I note that your non-support of the matter is not on a planning ground. If the likelihood of this going to a further process, you would require to have a planning reason for that to take place. Thank you. Speaker for, speaker against, speaker for, speaker against. The mover has the right of reply. Councillor Viskovich? No. We do have a vote at is declared to be against, so I will open up for the vote. Those in favour of 1524, please raise your hand. 3. Councillor O'Donnell, would you wish to support the motion?
Yep, my hand is up. Yep.
4, so that's recorded as 4. Just again, myself, Councillor Viskovich, Councillor Brownlee and Councillor O'Donnell supporting. Those against? Councillor Turner, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Winner and Councillor Bodica. A tied vote, Mr CEO, which means I have a casting vote. As that casting vote will be used to support the recommendation from the officers on 1524. So therefore the vote is 5-4, including that casting vote, Mr CEO. Anything further required from that, Mr CEO? No. 1525, extension of time limited approval for workforce accommodation at lot 3874 Hopkins Street in South Boulder. I don't have an alternate. I ask for a mover of the officer recommendation. Do we have a mover of the recommendation at 1525? Move Councillor Viskovich. Seconder. Councillor Johnson. Councillor Viskovich, you wish to speak? No. Councillor Johnson, you wish to speak? Thank you. Councillor O'Donnell, do you wish to speak for 1525?
Yes, please, Mr Mayor, just quickly.
Go ahead.
I was one of the councillors that was a bit amazed at why it was approved 12 months later. Then they wanted an extension. It was Mr Rogers. No, looking moving.
Councillor Johnson, your line. Councillor Johnson. Sorry, O'Donnell. Sorry, Councillor Johnson.
I'm very much for it now.
Okay, so he said he's pretty much for it. We did lose some of your conversation in that, Councillor O'Donnell. However, I did call you Councillor Johnson too, so apologies, you might not have responded. But you are speaking for Councillor O'Donnell, thank you. Speaker against?
Thank you very much, yes.
Councillor Turner, can you please turn your mic on?
Well, I would possibly like to move a procedural motion for this to be brought back to the next OCM in December. It was a great presentation from...
Up there, Councillor Turner.
Yep.
I have to call on the standing orders. Well done. And I bring to your attention 11.1 of our standing orders, the permissible procedural motion, which you're raising, 11B, that the question be adjourned. And I think you stated a time in that particular matter, so you are looking at adjourning. Can you please give us the date of that adjournment, please?
I believe the meeting is the 16th of December, is that correct? Someone's got a calendar?
16th of December is correct.
Yes. Yes.
So, councillors, we have a procedural motion that the question be adjourned to the 16th of December 2024. That is the next ordinary council meeting. Now, you are the mover of that particular motion. As it's a permissible procedural motion, I do require a seconder to Councillor Turner. Councillor Winner, thank you. Councillor Turner, you wish to speak. You have 5 minutes.
Yes, I do wish to speak to the motion. So there was an excellent presentation by Mr Lay from MLG and also the other man that was with him. Sorry, I've misplaced his name. I just feel that councillors need to be briefed a little bit more fully on this, given that the Deputy Mayor isn't present, Councillor O'Donnell is away and wasn't in the room. I would personally like to hear a little bit more about this. I know that there may be some commercial in confidence items that the proponents are unable to speak to publicly, and it first came up, the first I heard about this was last week at the agenda briefing, and just such an important item coming back to council within 9 months. I really would like us to be able to give it the full respect and consideration that it deserves, given that workforce accommodation is always a contentious issue in our community, and I want people to be proactive when they make their decisions and not reactive to this.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. As the seconder is not to speak under our standing orders other than to formally second the motion, there is no debate on the motion. Those in favour of the procedural motion by Councillor Turner, please raise your hand. 6 in favour. Those against? Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. Councillor O'Donnell, are you supporting or are you not supporting of Councillor Turner's motion?
I'm supporting. I've even got my hand up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Yes, I've copied that. I was just in disbelief that you put your hand up when you're on the phone.
I know.
That has been carried 7-1. And we have recorded the names of those who have spoken. So therefore, those who have spoken when the item does come back to council do not get the opportunity to speak again under our standing orders. Thank you. Anything else further, Mr CEO? I think that's everything covered. 15.26, notice of motion C.Y. O'Connor. Councillor Turner, you brought this previously, moving this motion. Seconder for 15.26, Councillor Bodica. Councillor Turner, go ahead.
Okay, so firstly, I would like to thank the officers for having brought this motion back to us so promptly. I'm just going to get my notes here. In such a timely manner. So this is an item that I felt was very important, and whilst the report has highlighted the different ways C.Y. O'Connor is duly recognised within our city, this is a person who is at the forefront of engineering in our state. In fact, without his vision, his passion and his bravery, we possibly and simply wouldn't be here tonight in this chamber, where water and its availability will still be a topic later on in the agenda, some 121 years later. The relocation of the bust of C.Y. O'Connor to a suitable location where residents and visitors can view it and access it, along with rotating displays about his life and achievements, is very important. It was moved to our town hall, but with that not being open at all times, the library, which is actually in the C.Y. O'Connor precinct, is an excellent option. If this motion is supported, that we will now also be calling for artists to design and print a full-size statue of C.Y. O'Connor to bookend our statue of Paddy Hannon and be located at the WA Museum of the Goldfields, which is in visual proximity to the Mount Charlotte Reservoir, but is also accessible to all those with mobility issues. For me, this is something I think our residents would appreciate, as well as enhance our education opportunities for our youth to understand and appreciate the history of our city, as well as enhance our tourism opportunities for visitors who often visit our region for historical reasons. Continuing the work with Australia's Golden Outback, the Kalgoorlie-Boulder Visitor Centre to promote C.Y. O'Connor's life and achievements, along with working with the Water Corp and National Trust will also enhance this project. I'll also speak a little bit later once I give other councillors the time to talk.
You can't do that under your right of reply.
Okay, so I'll finish speaking now. Okay, so our federal electorate is actually named in honour of the recognition that recognition and esteem that C.Y. O'Connor is held around Australia. There is actually a C.Y. O'Connor lecture that it is still held every year to this day within Australia. The Goldfields Water Supply Scheme, also known as the Goldfields Pipeline, is iconic in nature. Many call it not only one of the greatest and most visionary engineering feats of not only its time, but still remaining to this day. C.Y. O'Connor's legacy lives on. We are a big state and we build big projects, starting with C.Y. O'Connor's iconic pipeline. I think it is time for our community to adequately recognise C.Y. O'Connor, and I'm going to say in a big way, and not what better to do that in a statue that will mark him forever in time.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. I draw your attention 10.20. It's dangerous having the standing orders out. Item 2 under right of reply. Your right of reply is to be confined to rebutting arguments raised by previous speakers with no new matter to be introduced. Councillor Bodica.
Thank you. I totally agree with Councillor Turner's sentiments in relation to this. C.Y. O'Connor was a great Australian, and his legacy, as Councillor Turner says, is still sort of alive and well today with that 530 kilometres that we've got from Mundaring Weir near Perth to the Goldfields. And I think that to go ahead with this is a really good recognition of him and sort of the legacy that he's left for us here in the Goldfields and in sort of other areas of the state that are also able to get that water. So yeah, I definitely support it.
Thank you, Councillor Bodica. Speaker against? Speaker for? Speaker against? Speaker for? I don't know if you want to use your right of reply, Councillor Turner. No, thank you. No dissent for 15.26, councillors. Carried 8-0. 15.27, is an extension of time-limited approval for workforce accommodation at number 160 Vivian Street in South Boulder. At this point, I have an officer recommendation. Mover of the officer recommendation. Councillor Viskovich, seconder. Councillor Winner. Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Am I able to hold my right of reply?
You won't be able to bring in any new information.
That's fine.
You'll only be able to rebut conversation.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Winner, seconder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will, given I know where this will end up, I'm going to withhold my comments. Thank you.
Councillor Turner.
So following on from the previous item, I would also like to move a procedural motion to adjourn this to the OCM on the 16th of December with a presentation in the meantime.
You can't add the presentation in the meantime. It's only that the question be adjourned
Okay.
until the next OCM as per the previous recommendation, which was from the previous. Do you wish to speak to your procedural motion? No? I need a seconder first. Sorry. A seconder to the procedural? Councillor Brownlee. No, and you don't wish to speak. Thank you. We have the procedural as put on two procedurals in one. Okay, so councillors, that is that the item which is 1527, the extension of time limited approval for workforce accommodation at number 160 Vivian Street in South Boulder, be adjourned to the next OCM, which is December 16, 2024 at the Kalgoorlie Town Hall. Those in favour of Councillor Turner's procedural motion, please raise your hand. Councillor O'Donnell, do you support?
Roger, my hand is up.
Thank you. Those against? Thank you. Carried 7-1. Councillor Viskovich against. Councillor O'Donnell, just for the record, was supportive of that. Next item of business, councillors, is 1541, the golf course waterbank project feasibility. 1541. Anyone wish to move that particular motion? Point of clarification first of all.
Just to the officers, probably two questions, if I may, is were there any
Can you just adjust, sorry, Councillor Johnson, can you just adjust your microphone? Yeah.
Yep.
Need to hear you now that you've got rid of your beard.
Were there any other locations considered actually at the golf course itself for an extension or a dam building area? And also, with the investment that we're going to be making down there, how long will that actual storage, if we increase it by 25 megalitres, actually last in the full blaze of summer?
Tough questions, Councillor Johnson. Always good at an agenda briefing, but Mr CEO, do you wish to answer those? Do you have the ability to answer those at this point in time?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I think the initial designs for the proposed new storage locations are based on topographical surveys. The engineers have identified the suitable locations to actually transfer the water around. So whether they've looked at other locations, I think will come out as they do the detailed study, as they move forward to that next level. So the reports that are there have identified what their preferred location is. They still need to go through and do design and come back with costings as part of mid-year budget review. So I think we could consider other locations through that process, through to the director, yes. They will look at other locations as part of that, and that would be incorporated as part of the report to come back to council for formal consideration as part of budget.
Thank you, Mr CEO. I note that I need a mover for that before I probably get your question, so apologies, I jump forward. Can I have a mover for the motion? Councillor Turner, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Winner, and your question's considered.
And just the second question was that what will that 1.6 actually buy us if we're going to invest this money into that? Especially in the extension of maybe 25 megalitres. How long will that actually last based in the full blaze of summer? So
tough question, thank you. Mr CEO, did you have some other information as well?
Through Mr Mayor, I don't think that I'll be able to answer that question tonight. The one point I probably just will pick up is in relation to the officer's recommendation, and rather than allocate funding, it should be consider the allocation of funding in the mid-year budget review. So it isn't a committed funding yet, it's simply part of the approval to proceed through design and get that sorted out. That will then come back to council and we can consider other locations also at that time.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Does the mover and the seconder accept that that's the proper wording? Yep, thank you. Nods. Councillor Turner.
Okay. So, firstly, water, a very topical subject within our community at the moment, especially with summer approaching. Firstly, I'd like to thank our officers for doing some work on identifying some other areas that we perhaps will be able to capture some very important water that we can use for our community. The motion delivers the opportunity for a feasibility study to take advantage of an important catchment of water in a location that was previously unavailable prior to the residential developments that have now taken place up there. With the numerous houses now having been built in this area, and there is a huge amount of water that can now be captured up here, and so this is an opportunity I don't think can be missed. The project delivers best practice in harvesting of water and highlights the opportunities available with good planning for any future residential developments that we possibly have in the city, and we could use this as perhaps a pilot project. It offers the ability to be able to make recreational spaces sustainable and also presents what can be possible in other areas of the city, especially given the city currently has proposals and funding requests in place with higher levels of government to make this achievable with the city's proposed water bank project, which at the moment is at a little bit of a standstill as we wait for those funding opportunities. It shows that the city is being proactive in an area that many other cities and towns throughout Australia, especially regional areas, are now facing and finding it ever increasingly challenging with water availability. It is commendable that city officers have identified this area of opportunity for the city to increase its water collection and storage options as we wait and seek that funding. I hope that higher levels of government take notice of this and look to support and work the CKB for our future water bank projects so that we can get underway. But in the meantime, we must identify other areas around of the city that can be identified as future water catchment and storage areas, and I look forward to this feasibility study, and I'm hoping that it may lead to other areas in the city that we have yet to identify that will help our other greenfields as well.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Councillor Winner takes a sip of water.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This motion and ultimately this project is very important because its focus is on looking at creating greater water sustainability both in the immediate and future and creating greater flexibility in our system. The hard fact is that we need more water if we are going to continue to attract housing developments, industry growth and community asset development. And trying to stretch what we have now to cover all we have and all we want is not practical and, put simply, just won't work. Years ago, Council considered water storage projects, which to date have just not panned out the way it was intended to for a number of reasons. We want to be a city that is able to be attractive for opportunities without impacting what we currently have. And what is being proposed in this motion is the start of working towards addressing this. The city wants and should be growing, and power and water remain our largest challenges to achieving this today. I would hope to continue to see the city exploring opportunities around developing greater water security and growth opportunities. And while I recognise we have a significant water bank application sitting with government, it is important the city continues to not put all our eggs in one basket and look at a combination of self-funded and externally supported measures to meet current, future and opportunistic options. I do hope that this motion receives the support it should and that works can be fast-tracked to allow the city to meet previously planned water bank projects which have to date been delayed by lack of external support or other restrictions. Our water need is going to keep growing and this project will contribute towards what we are chasing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Winner. Speaker against? Speaker for? Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the officers for the study. I just want to propose a amended motion for point 2.
You're after an amendment of point 2. Please stand by as I bring point 2 up in my recommendations, which is sorry, Mr. CEO, we did adjust that, wasn't it? Consider the allocation of funding through the mid-year budget review for the implementation. Sure. Yes. What's your amendment? I'll consider. Consider the allocation of funding through the mid-year budget review for implementation, which is also to include alternate locations for the dams to be built at the golf course and have all options presented to council. Mr. CEO? Yep. Mover? Seconder. Take it as a formal amendment. Take it as a foreshadowed motion.
Through you, Mr Mayor, no, it'd be an amendment to point 2 if there's a seconder to that amendment.
Okay.
So
Is there a
Councillor
second?
Viskovich would move.
Can Councillor Turner second that amendment? It's hers to already. No. Okay. Do we have a seconder to Councillor Viskovich's amendment? Thank you, Councillor Johnson. So your amendment is now being considered. Councillor Viskovich, we are on your pathway now. Can you please repeat for us, just again, and hopefully we can get it on in the room. Thank you, Mr CEO. We're just getting that across for those in the room to look at. Okay, so the current recommendation ends at implementation. Is that correct? With the words afterwards, which is to also include alternate locations for the dams to be built at the golf course and have all options presented to Council. Councillor Viskovich, we are debating that addition now. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just after Councillor Johnson's questions with the options of potentially having them in different locations, I'd just like to see those options presented to Council to ensure that we have further investigated all options.
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. Councillor Johnson, you're the seconder.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. The reason for bringing it up is if we're going to invest 1.6 million, knowing some of that will be in infrastructure and repairing some stuff, it's important that we consider where we could get greater capacity. And I just in a bit of research that I've been doing, I reckon we can almost go to 300 megalitres in that area itself. So I do support it for that, bring it all around the table, and that's what we're seeking. I do support it.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Speaker against? Councillor Winner first.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll be speaking against this motion as I believe we need to be doing more than just considering allocations. If we identify further opportunities as a council, let's explore those as additional options to potentially receive funding at a later stage. I believe that we as a council cannot continue to seek out opportunities and continue to seek out exploring what those opportunities could be when we have a need for more water and more water storage. I think the longer we continue to delay projects, we'll continue down the cycle we have been for a number of years, where unfortunately we end up in a situation where we require more immediate action. So I would hope that councillors not support this moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Winner. Question, Councillor Turner? Question? No? All good? No? Speaker for the amended motion? Speaker against? Councillor Turner?
Okay, so I'll be speaking against the motion, even though I was happy for it to be amended so that we could speak for or against it. The reason I'm speaking against it is that I concur with Councillor Winner here. I'm happy to proceed with what the officers have brought to us for this stage, and then if we can identify other options later on, I'm happy to proceed with something else later on. What I am, my reasoning for that, I will explain, is that for the past 2 years or more, I've heard that we're going to have water bank projects up. We're exploring options to have other catchments of water. And then we defer them for whatever reason, whether it's funding, whether we think that there's a better opportunity or whether we think that there's a better option. And here we are, several years down the track, and we have done nothing about enhancing our water catchment and our water storage. And I am very mindful that I do not want to delay anything else any further. If we have got a feasibility of what we can do, something that is ready to go, a project that is shovel ready and that we can allocate mid-year funds to, I want to look at proceeding there. So that's why I'm not supporting the alternate.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. I do note that work has been done. It might not be physical, but there has been a lot done. Speaker for? Speaker against? Speaker for the amendment? Speaker against? I will support the amendment as I still think it achieves the same result, to be fair. We're not looking to delay anything to consider the allocation of funding through the mid-year budget review. We're still considering that for the implementation, which is to also include maybe alternate locations for the dams to be built at the golf course. We'll still look at the alternates, we'll still look at that and have all the options presented to council. Still got to go through the mid-year budget review. Same process. Mover has the right of reply. No? Thank you. Those in favour of the alternate recommendation, please raise your hands. Councillor Viskovich, Councillor Brownlee, Councillor Johnson and the Mayor, that's 4. Councillor O'Donnell, do you support the amendment or not? Councillor O'Donnell? We've lost Councillor O'Donnell.
Can you hear me now?
Thank you. Yes. Thought you might. You found the mute button. Excellent. I thought you might have been asleep. Councillor O'Donnell, do you support or do you not support?
Yes.
You
Yes, I support the motion.
Support the amended motion. Thank you. The amendment is carried. So the amendment is now as put on the screen. That vote being 5-4. Sorry. 5-3. Those against, Councillor Winner, Councillor Bodica and Councillor Turner. It's been a big night, councillors. The alternate recommendation is now on the screen as put by Councillor Viskovich. Sorry to keep you up, Councillor O'Donnell. You're not muted still. Mr. CEO, the amended motion is now being debated, has now been debated and is now the substantive motion. The substantive motion, we don't require a mover in a second? We do. It's already there. We've got the mover, which is Councillor Turner, and the seconder, which is Councillor Winner. Do we need to go back to... Yeah, that's the substantive motion, because it's now become the motion, because we've... No, because it's the original. Yep. Right, I know it's a confusing night, don't worry. Sorry,
Mr. Mayor, before we proceed, am I able to withdraw my support to second the motion then?
No.
Okay, I can vote against though.
You can still vote against, yep. Pretty excellent. Right. Now, where did we get up to, Mr. CEO? Just some guidance, please. We had the speaker for the motion, which was Councillor Turner. We had the speaker against the motion, which was Councillor Winner. We then had the substantive, which has now become the motion. Who's next to speak?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We had the mover speak, second to speak, and we had an amendment put to it, so it's up to a speaker for.
Thank you. Speaker for the amendment from those who haven't spoken yet, which includes Councillor Turner, Councillor Winner and also Councillor Viskovich. Speaker for. Speaker against. Glad it's the last one. Speaker for. Speaker against. We are voting at the moment on the officer recommendation, which should be the substantive motion. It's on the screen. Those in favour of the substantive motion, please raise your hand. And Councillor O'Donnell, do you support the substantive motion?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We only require a simple majority. Those in favour were Councillor Viskovich, Councillor Brownlee, Councillor Johnson, Councillor O'Donnell and myself. Those against, raise your hands. Sorry again. It was Councillor Turner, Councillor Winner, Councillor Bodica. That is carried. 4-3. 5-3. Apologies, councillors, it's getting late. 16, questions of which due notice has been given, there are nil. Confidential items tonight, there are nil, and the next ordinary council meeting will be on the 16th of December 2024. Can I thank our CEO and staff? Thank you, councillors. Thanks to those in the gallery who stayed, and to our visitors as well. And I'll close the meeting tonight at 8:23 p.m. Thank you.